best E3 press conference ever. I mean, I don't even know if I should say more. I should just say go watch it. Don't even watch this video of me recapping it. I mean, I was so excited at the end of this. I didn't even give an intro for this video. I've never done that. But Sony's conference blew me out of the water. I would say it blew pretty much everybody out of the water. Bethesda's last year was #1, but this even tops that. Like, this was phenomenal. Oh my goodness. Okay, I should just get into things. So, one of the greatest things about this is from the very beginning, they opened up incredibly strong. They were in one of the venues that they haven't been to in a long time. And they had a live symphony there, playing all the music for the trailers, just hype music, all that. And they played some stuff from game soundtracks. They played other stuff that I recognize, like classical music. I know one was, I believe the fifth movement. It's either fourth or fifth. I believe it's the fifth movement from Dvorak's New World Symphony. His ninth symphony. Excuse me there. Get a little choked up. So, anyways, the live symphony and choir was absolutely amazing, and I was just thinking, like, what game could this be leading up to? Well, it was a really awesome piece, and I believe an original piece of work too, for the first game that they showed, which is none other than God of War. So this was amazing. This is not a sequel, as far as I can tell. It's not even really a reboot, but it's just called God of War. Simple. And Kratos is much older. He's got a beard. He's got I don't know if it's actually his son, but anyways, the boy's mother is dead, and he's teaching him how to hunt and everything. But I've played many of the other God of War games. I thought they were pretty good, but they weren't necessarily my style. This one, though, they bring the camera in closer. It's more like a traditional first-person game. I'm sure they're still going to have some like isometric fighting and camera shifts in certain areas and certain boss battles. But it's much more up my alley. The graphics are amazing. The animations are amazing. The combat looks really awesome. There's lots of diversity, and boy, the atmosphere of this game and the character building and just the emotional tension is so good. And a lot of it is due to the soundtrack. But dang, I was pretty much speechless from that, but I was like, okay, they can't top that. And while I don't necessarily know if they top that, they basically keep that tension pretty much the whole way through the conference. So if you guys even wanted to stop watching the video here and just watch the conference for yourself, I would just recommend that, because it was that amazing. But I'm gonna share some more of my thoughts on this real quickly. The guy who's doing the soundtrack for God of War, and it was or maybe he's not the soundtrack, but he's the guy that was conducting the symphony. I believe his name is Burl or Beryl, like Daryl McCurdy. I couldn't really tell what his first name is, but his last name's McCurdy. I think it's Burl or Beryl or Daryl. That was absolutely amazing. Next up, they took a moment, just as much as other press conferences have done, to honor the victims of the recent Orlando incident, shooting or whatever that I believe killed 49. But you know, a lot of them have done that. Some of them it's been kind of forced, and as I mentioned in Ubisoft, it was just terribly bad timing for when they did that. But PlayStation did it very well. Sean Layden was the one that came out and spoke first, and he handled it very well. And he also realized that, you know, even coming off, and I think this was much better placement than any of the other companies that had done it previously with their conferences. But he even said, like, you know, maybe this isn't the best timing, you know. And he was just saying, you know, it's kind of awkward, but we should take a moment to that anyways. So I think he did a very good presentation. All the presenters did a very good presentation. As far as I could tell, none of them were like nervous. They didn't even really mess up. It was really strong presentation, and of course the games. And this is the thing that I loved most about Sony's conference, is they went from game to game to game, much like Microsoft's, only I think they did even more so. They let the games do the talking for them. They didn't have to talk, and I think this is going to influence the way a lot of companies do press conferences in the future. Just let the games do the talking, and only speak when you absolutely need to put context into it, or to maybe hype something up, but be very brief about it, and then give the game its spotlight. So the second game they showed is actually a new IP, and at first I was thinking, is this The Last of Us 2 or something? It is not, but it's a new IP. They did not announce that from the very beginning, but it's kind of a post-apocalyptic, game based in the forest for the most part, and it's kind of got focused around some like biker gang type of characters. A biker character is who you play as, but there was kind of just a cinematic trailer, not a whole lot there, but they did show this off later on in the conference, and I will talk about that to close the video off because they showed it at the very end. Next up, they did another kind of, I guess you could say reveal, well, not really a reveal trailer, kind of an announcement or like a release date trailer for The Last Guardian, which is coming October 25. A lot of people are excited for that game. I'm not too excited for it, but yeah, it built the hype up even more. And it looks like it could be a very good story with a lot of character building, and it could probably get you quite emotionally invested. Then next, we got our first peek at Horizon Zero Dawn's gameplay, unedited. As before, we had some kind of gameplay trailers, but yeah, it is back again. It is wrapping up development, I guess. It's coming out February 28th, I believe. I did not write that down, but February 28th, so it's next year's game. This was actually quite cool. I gotta say, Horizon Zero Dawn is definitely one of the most unique game worlds in like a new IP that we have seen in a very long time. And I mean, there's a tremendous amount of creativity behind it. That being said, there are kind of some problems. Well, right now with the performance of the game, I noticed they have a lot of motion blur, which could be intentional, but it seems like maybe they're doing that to kind of, maybe they just haven't handled it, or maybe they've purposely put that on there to, make it look like the frame rate's a bit better. I don't know, because the frame rate was a tiny bit laggy as well, but they still got a ways to go. They can definitely patch that up, but the motion blur was very heavy, and if they have that in the full game, I think they're going to need to, you're going to need to turn it down in the options or whatever, so hopefully they can tone that down, because that was my main problem with it. Other than that, I've noticed the game is probably going to have a lot of looting and crafting, because you've been able to loot some of the things the robotic, creatures that you kill. And with that being said, the creatures in this game, as I said, a very unique world, but there are also a lot of bosses and everything, and a lot of weapons that they give you, or a lot of gadgets and tools that they give you to deal with these various types of enemies. And the boss battles, I gotta say, are done right. There's no QTE, BS. The boss battles aren't lazy. As I said, there's a lot of variety, a lot of uniqueness in the enemies, and I hope that this will show other game companies, game developers, how to do a boss battle right, especially in a game that is very similar to some first-person shooters. It's not just a bullet sponge, and it's not QTE. In some ways it's comparable to God of War, but not really. But they have critical hit points on the enemies and ways you can disable them and certain weaknesses, and there's actually quite a variety of ways that I think you could probably take down each enemy, regardless of whether they're just a normal robot creature, whatever, or a boss. So definitely looking forward to that. I'm going to be picking that up day one. That's looking to be one of PlayStation's, well, probably an early Game of the Year contender for next year if they pull it off right and give us a good story and it runs well. Next thing they showed is also a new IP. It's called Detroit: Become Human. This is a game all about choices. You play as this android detective, and I guess it would be most comparable to games such as Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, or Until Dawn, only with more of a focus on replayability and trying to see all the outcomes of each individual scenario. So very interesting concept. I don't know how much more to the game there is other than these choices and negotiating. There seems to be some sort of detective work involved, but a very interesting kind of cyberpunky title. Next up, coming January 24th, is Resident Evil Biohazard. Almost forgot the subtitle there. Now, this game is going to be entirely playable in VR when it launches in October, and the demo for this game is actually going to be available tonight on January 13th or June 13th on Monday night here. So you guys can go and try it out. I don't know if it's going to be a limited time demo like the Doom one is, but this is a game that hasn't come out yet, so very cool. Though I did notice that this game seems to have a lot of frame drops at this point. The frame rate is fairly low, but the atmosphere of this game, the horror aspects of it, are very good. But considering this is going to be on the PlayStation VR, I figured they would have had the frame rate taken care of by now. Now, on the topic of PlayStation VR, which is coming October 13th for $400, they did not say if this is just the VR headset by itself. I believe it is, because as we know before, at least for early adopters, early people that pre-ordered it or whatever, that was going to be $500 if you had to get the motion controllers with it. But $400, I believe, just for the base headset. And there's going to be over 50 games from launch till the end of this year. So there's looking to be a pretty good launch library, or at least a very good launch window library for the PlayStation VR. Some VR games coming. I'm not sure if this was the name of the game or the developer or what, but there was something Impulse Gear, and then they showed some gameplay, and the game I believe is called Farpoint. So I'm not exactly sure what Impulse Gear is, but then they also showed there's a Star Wars Battlefront. There's an X-Wing VR mission coming to that. And there's also a PSVR exclusive called Batman Arkham VR, and it actually has Mark Hamill voicing the Joker in there. It was just teased. They kind of do cinematic camera shots around Batman's cowl, so we don't know too much about it, what it's going to be doing. Hopefully you're not stationary, but it might just be some challenge map type of stuff. Who knows? But very interesting to see what they do with that license. And that is coming in October as well. Probably a launch title on the PlayStation VR. And then finally, Final Fantasy 15. There's going to be a playable version on the VR as well. So, lots of great games coming to the VR actually. And hopefully the PSVR can deliver. There's a lot riding on this, and it is the cheapest VR headset. But if they can prove themselves, they'll get an enormous share of the market, and I think it would actually be worth picking up a PlayStation VR. Maybe once you get a price drop, or, you know, if they really have a phenomenal games collection and it gets good reviews and everything, maybe even pick one up, you know, shortly after launch. Though for myself, I'll probably go with the HTC Vive on the PC if I'm going to get a VR headset at all, because I want to have the best. Then on November 4 is Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. From what I saw before, the trailer wasn't so great, wasn't put together very well. And the whole Call of Duty Battlefield 1 controversy. But let me tell you, this gameplay that we saw here at Sony's E3 conference actually surprised me. And I've been kind of skeptical about Call of Duty pretty much ever since. Although I did like quite a few aspects of Modern Warfare 3, but at that point I was getting a little skeptical of the series and a little tired of it. But let me tell you, Infinite Warfare is actually very likely to get me back into Call of Duty. I did not think I was going to be saying this about this game, but if this gameplay is a substantial part of the game, then I am on board with Call of Duty once again. If it is not, however, then I'm going to have to wait a bit. But I will not be picking this game up day one. I will wait and see, but if the reviews are good and I figure out that the majority of the game is like what I saw, then I'm in. Call of Duty has finally got me back. But the space battles looked really cool. Zero-G combat was awesome. They had like a grapple hook type of thing, which you could draw guys in with, or draw yourself into an object, kind of like the grapple hook in Just Cause 4, or like in Batman or what have you. And there's also a lot of really cool finisher moves that you could do on the guys with the grapple hook. So some of them obviously possibly might get old after a while, but I think it's very similar to Doom's glory kill system, where you target specific parts of the body and at specific angles, and it will do different types of finisher animations. And then of course they have to throw in that you get 30 days early access to it on the PlayStation, which surprisingly, because most of the stuff they showed off so far was exclusives, this is actually looking like a pretty good, you know, rest of the year and coming year for Sony, considering they're only relying on, at the moment, what looks like Call of Duty to do some sort of a timed exclusive thing. But still, that's a nasty business move right there. Don't like that. Also, fans of Crash Bandicoot will be very happy to hear that Crash Bandicoot 1, 2, and Warped will be remastered. But Crash will be coming to Skylanders first in a crossover. Also new to Skylanders is Skylanders Imaginators, which allows you to actually create your own Skylander with many different options. So that's pretty cool. Haven't been into Skylanders, but it looks neat nonetheless. And the Crash Bandicoot remasters, I think a lot. I might actually pick them up. I have I have those exact 3 on my PlayStation 3. I bought them as PS1 classics, but the controls are very dated for me. And I also played the first Crash Bandicoot in another Sony exclusive that came out earlier this year. I'm not going to mention its name, but the controls felt a little bit better in there. So if that's any indication of what a fully remastered version would be like, I might actually hop in and play the Crash Bandicoots finally, because I remember playing them a little bit when I was younger at friends' houses or at the store, and you know, they were games that intrigued me back then, so I would like to relive some of those old memories. Then we have Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens, which is going to be coming out in 2 weeks. Not much to say there, except for that it does follow the movie storyline pretty closely from what I can tell, and there's also a lot of humor integrated into it, just like, you know, Lego games have. And then next, just a hint, F Konami, F Konami, F Konami. Yes, you guessed it. Kojima Productions is coming out with their first game. Hideo Kojima was on stage and he presented his newest game as part of Kojima Productions, setting on his own with support from Sony, that goes by the name Death Standing. Well, this was actually some reveal trailer. It was very, I don't know if I should say philosophical, but very vague, very intriguing, very artistic, very well put together. And we're not quite sure what type of game this is exactly, although Hideo Kojima did come out earlier saying that it's something that Western audiences would like, and it seemed like he was indicating it might be somewhat in the same type of a genre as what Metal Gear Solid is, only possibly a more narrowed and focused, maybe more linear story. And on the cast right now, the only name, Norman Reedus, so I'm guessing that's the protagonist, but very interesting teaser. Looking forward to see what this game actually is in the near future. And then, second to last, we had SpiderMan PS4. It's a hashtag SpiderMan PS4. It was just a teaser trailer, so this game must be really early in development, but who knows? It might be a good addition to the Spider-Man license. It might be a good superhero game altogether. And finally, to end off the conference, the game that I promised I would tell you more about earlier, Days Gone. So, Sony showed off probably about 6 to 8 minutes of gameplay for this game, and it wasn't exactly what I expected. I'm assuming it's probably going to be some type of an open world game, because it starts by the character getting on a motorcycle, realizing one of his friends or somebody he knows, maybe not necessarily his friend, is in distress. He goes there, finds his motorcycle kind of crashed, and then he goes into this what's kind of like an old sawmill or something like that, and investigates. Turns out this game is actually a zombie game, so maybe somewhat like The Last of Us, and it is based in the forest. So it does have a lot of those vibes, and I don't recall if they ever said who this game was developed by. A lot of the gunplay kind of reminded me of Naughty Dog material, something they would make. And just the overall detail in the world also screamed Naughty Dog to me. But it's not really, you know, there's no telling what type of apocalypse it exactly was. Due to the fact that it's a zombie game, it was likely some sort of a biological apocalypse or some sort of an outbreak that caused all this. Although there could be other factors involved. But some things that I really love about this is it seems like the game, maybe it's just the way they staged it and the fact that they had the live music just with perfect timing. But this game seems like it's going to be very intense, and the amount, like the hordes of zombies they throw at you are like the equivalent of what you see in like the Dead Rising games. Like there are a lot, and you don't have nearly the same number of tools as what you did there. Although you do seem to have quite a bit more ammo. So although this is going to be a game with scavenging in it, it seems like ammo is probably not in short supply. But overall, a very interesting game, a game that I am definitely looking forward to. We have no clue if it's open world or not. If it's Naughty Dog, I would wager it's probably got very open-ended levels, much like Uncharted 4, but, you know, probably not an open world game. But overall, Sony's conference was really awesome. They had a few good new IPs to show off, Days Gone as well as Hideo Kojima's new game, and the presentation overall was very good, and they showed more on. And as I said, you know, they let the games do the talking. They showed more on the games we're looking forward to. And overall, as I said, the rest of this year and next year is looking to be a fantastic year for Sony and to own a PlayStation console. And quite frankly, even for gaming in general, because I think a lot of the other conferences, a lot of the other companies did pretty good with their conferences and have a lot of great games coming. But before I leave and wrap up this year's coverage of E3 on GamerSlice, I must score Sony's conference. Well, as you can tell, and if you've seen it, you know this was by far the best conference at E3, and as I open this video with, the best E3 conference of all time. And I stand by that, and I'm sure even in a year's time, I will still stand by that. So with that being said, I would give Sony's conference an A+. They nailed it this time. And if I could give it an A++, I'll give it an A++. Or, actually, since Hideo Kojima was involved in this, an S. Sony gets an S ranking. That's it for this year's E3 coverage. I'm Jared. You're tuned in to GamerSlice. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you guys in the next video.